everyone, welcome to Chapter 6, The Night of the Stormtroopers. Today we leave the story of Joseph as he tries to travel to Switzerland, and we find out about what happened to his family after he was taken away to prison camp. I've got some really important information about our activities that we're doing at the end of the chapter, so hang in there until after I've read, and then I'll give you your instructions, mainly about the research activity of Poland. Right, here we go. Chapter 6, The Night of the Stormtroopers. What had happened to Joseph's family that night over a year ago when the Nazi stormtroopers called at the schoolhouse? Was what Mrs. Cruz said true? Had they taken his wife away? Had they returned and blown up the house with the children in it? This is what happened. That night, there was an inch of snow on the roofs of Warsaw. Ruth and Bronia were asleep in the bedroom next to their mother's. Eric's room was on the top floor, below the attic. He was asleep when the Nazi soldiers broke into the house, but he woke up when he heard a noise outside his door. He jumped out of bed and turned the handle. The door was locked. He shouted and banged on it with his fists, but it was no use. Then he lay down with his ear to the floor and listened. In his mother's room, the men were rapping out orders, but he could not catch a word of what they said. In the ceiling was a small trapdoor that led into the attic. A ladder lay between his bed and the wall. Quietly he removed it, hooked it under the trap, and climbed up. Hidden between the water tank and the felt jacket around it was his rifle. He was a member of the Boys' Rifle Brigade and had used it in the siege of Warsaw. It was loaded. He took it out and quickly climbed down to his room. The noise in the room below had stopped. Looking out the window onto the street, he saw the Nazi van waiting outside the front door. 2 stormtroopers were taking his mother down the steps, and she was struggling. Quietly, Eric lifted the window sash until it was half open. He dared not shoot in case he hit his mother. He had to wait until she was in the van and the doors were being closed. His first shot hit a soldier in the arm. Yelling, he jumped in beside the driver. With the next 2 shots, Eric aimed at the tyres. One punctured the rear wheel, but the van got away, skidding and roaring up the street. His other shots went wide, but with the butt of his rifle, he broke down the door and ran down to his sisters. They were locked in too. He burst open the door. Bronia was sitting up in bed, and Ruth was trying to calm her. She was almost as distraught as herself. Only the effort to calm Bronia kept her from losing control. "I hit one of the swine," said Eric. "That's very silly of you," said Ruth. "They'll come back for us now." "I couldn't let them take Mother away like that," said Eric. "Oh, be quiet, Bronia. Howling won't help." "We must get away from here before they come back," said Ruth. With some difficulty she dressed Bronia while Eric went into the hall to fetch overcoats and boots and fur caps. There was no time for Ruth to dress properly. She put on a coat over her nightdress and wound a woolen scarf around Bronia. "We can't get out the front way," said Eric. "There's another van coming. I heard the whistle." "What about the back?" said Ruth. "The wall's too high. We'll never get Bronia over. Besides, there are Nazis billeted in that street. There's only one way. Over the roof." "We'll never manage that," said Ruth. "It's the only way," said Eric. "I'll carry Bronia. Be quick. I can hear them coming." She packed up the sobbing Bronia and led the way upstairs. He was wearing his father's thick overcoat over his pajamas, a pair of stout boots on his bare feet, and his rifle slung on his back. When they were all up in the attic, he smashed the skylight. "Now listen, Bronia," said Eric. "If you make a sound, we shall never see Mother again. We shall be killed." "Of course we'll see her again," Ruth added, "but only if you do what Eric says." He climbed through the skylight onto the slippery roof. Ruth handed Bronia up to him, then followed him herself. The bitterly cold air made her gasp. "I can't carry you yet, Bronia," said Edic. "You must walk behind me and hold on to the rifle. It doesn't matter if you slip, if you hold on to the rifle and don't look down." The first few steps, as far as the V between the chimney and the roof ridge, were ghastly. Edic made a dash for it, grabbed the telephone bracket and hauled himself up, with Bronia clinging on behind. She was speechless with terror. He reached back and hauled Ruth up after him. After a few minutes' rest, they slid down a few feet on the flat part that jutted out, a sort of parapet. The ridge lay between them and the street, so they could not see what was happening down there. But they could hear shouting, a whine of cars, the screech of brakes. Luckily for them, all the houses on this side of the school were joined together in one long terrace. Otherwise, they could not have got away. Even so, it was a miracle that none of their slips and tumbles ended in disaster. They must have gone fully 100 yards when the first explosion shook the air. A sheet of fire leapt up from their home into the frosty night sky. They fell flat in the snow and lay there. The roof shook. The whole city seemed to tremble. Another explosion! Smoke and flames poured from the window. Sparks showered into the darkness. "Come along," said Edic. "We shan't let them have us now." With growing confidence, they hurried along the rooftops. At last, by descending a twisted fire escape, they reached street level. On and on they hurried, not knowing or caring where they went, so long as they left those roaring flames behind them. They did not stop till the fire was far away, and the pale winter dawn was breaking. They took shelter in the cellar of a bombed house. Exhausted, huddled together for warmth, they slept till long after midday, when the cold and hunger woke them. Okay, there are 4 questions for you to answer about today's chapter. Fairly terrifying situation that the children find themselves in, with their mother and father no longer there to support them. So for today's extra activity, I want you to go back and have a look at your research of Poland. You would have noticed on the slide I said not to use the template I gave you, and just to use it as a guide for producing your own work. There's certainly not enough space in that template for you to put on all the information that you need to do a really good Year 7-8 professional job. I would be expecting answers with full sentences, full descriptions. When it's asking you to talk about the weather in Poland, I'd be thinking that you'd be thinking of what's the weather like in summer, how hot does it get, does it rain much, in winter how cold does it get, does it snow, same for spring and autumn. The environment, it's asking you about what type of land there is in Poland. Is it a farming country like New Zealand? Is it full of cities? Is it full of forest? You need to find that information out. When it comes to the extra things that you need to find, the extra facts, like I said on my last video, Year 8s, I would be expecting you to find 4 or 5 good different facts of information about Poland, all in good full sentence answers in your own words. Year 7s, 3 or 4 good facts in your own words in a really good sentence. You might like to also find information out about what happened to Poland during World War II, which is when this story was set. Have another go. Do a really good job of it. Think about your elements of designs to make a really professional presentation that we can put on our blog. Zahan did a pretty good job of his video, which is on our blog already, so you can have a look at that, but I'm sure there's more things that he could add to that to really improve it and make it more professional as well. Right, I'm really impressed still with what you've been doing, so keep it up. So let's put the effort into this activity to make it a really, really good one. I look forward to seeing what you've done, and there are a few changes happening, so I look forward to maybe seeing some of you shortly. Have a great day. I look forward to it.